All right, so welcome to another deep dive, everybody.
Yeah.
Today we're going down to Florida.
Oh, Sunshine State.
Sunshine State, yeah, where things are getting pretty interesting in the political scene.
Mhm.
But we've got this trend happening
Yeah.
of state representatives switching from Democrat to Republican.
Right after they win their seat.
Right after they win their seats, yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, it just raises so many questions.
Yeah, like wow.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
After you've already secured your position, you know?
It really makes you think about like what's going on in their heads.
Well, and what about
yeah.
you know, the people who voted for them?
Right, exactly.
You know, thinking that they represent their values and all that.
What does it say about party loyalty these days?
Exactly.
Or about like, you know, what it means to actually represent your constituents.
Yeah.
It's a real head scratcher.
It is. It's a puzzle, for sure. So to try to figure this all out, we've got a couple of sources for this deep dive.
Okay.
We've got a news article, a recent one from WFLA.
Right.
That lays out, you know, the basic facts.
Yeah.
And then we've also got this pretty lively discussion thread.
Oh, from where?
From Reddit.
Oh, Reddit, of course.
That's politics.
No shortage of opinions.
Oh,
then.
yeah. It's really blowing up over this.
I bet.
And you know how Reddit can be.
Oh, yeah. It can get pretty wild.
Sometimes it's a little too much, but
True.
But, you know, you get those genuine...
You can find some gems in there.
Yeah, those genuine reactions.
Yeah.
You know, from everyday people.
And it gives you a sense of like what the average person is thinking and feeling about this kind of thing.
Exactly, yeah. And I think, you know...
Yeah.
A lot of the anxieties that people are feeling across the U.S. right now about the state of our political system, I think that's reflected in this Reddit thread. You know,
it's like this Florida thing is just a tiny little example of a much bigger national conversation that we're having.
Let's get into some specifics here.
Okay.
So WFLA is reporting that State Representative Hillary Cassel just recently switched from Democrat to Republican.
Wow.
And this makes her the second Florida representative to do so just this year.
Oh, wow. So it's like a trend.
Yeah.
It's becoming a thing.
Yeah. So the first was State Representative Susan Valdes.
Okay.
But what's interesting about Cassel's case is that she won her seat just back in 2022.
So recently. Like right in the middle of her term.
Right in the middle of her term.
Wow.
So, I mean, just imagine that you vote for somebody.
You think you know what they stand for?
Yeah. You believe in what they're saying.
Yeah.
And then suddenly...
They switch sides.
Yeah. Essentially switch sides, you know?
Yeah.
And it just feels like a broken promise.
A real breach of trust.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And you see that reflected in a lot of the comments on that Reddit thread.
Yeah.
People are feeling betrayed. They're angry. They're using words like fraud and bait with switch.
Yeah, it's a lot of strong...
It's a lot of emotion.
Yeah, strong emotions coming out.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting to think about like why this is provoking such a strong reaction.
Yeah, like what is it about this that's really getting under people's skin?
We're living in a time where trust in institutions is declining anyway,
Absolutely.
Right? And this kind of thing just feeds into that.
Yeah, it reinforces that cynicism, that feeling that politicians are just in it for themselves, that they don't really care about the people they represent. They just care about their own agendas,
their own
power.
Yeah. So Cassel has actually stated her reason for switching.
Okay.
And it comes down to one particular issue.
Okay.
The Democratic Party's stance on Israel. She gave a quote to WFLA.
Okay.
And she said, "As a proud Jewish woman, I have been increasingly troubled by the Democratic Party's failure to unequivocally support Israel and its willingness to tolerate extreme progressive voices that justify or condone acts of terrorism."
So she's basically saying that her values are no longer in line with the Democratic Party, at least when it comes to this specific issue.
Yes.
But the question is, does a single issue really justify such a dramatic party switch?
Right.
That's what people are debating on Reddit.
Yeah, and it's tricky.
It is.
Because to really understand her claim, we have to kind of delve into the historical context of the Democratic Party's stance on Israel.
Right. It's not like it's always been the same.
Right.
It's evolved over time.
Right.
There are a lot of factors at play.
Exactly. And it's also important to remember that within the Jewish community itself, there's a wide range of opinions on this issue.
Absolutely.
So Cassel's view...
It doesn't necessarily represent all Jewish voters.
No, not at all.
Not even close.
So some people are wondering,
Yeah.
is her reasoning genuine?
Yeah.
Or is there something else going on here?
Is it more about political opportunism?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe she sees a better chance of advancing her career
Right.
on the other side of the aisle.
And it's hard to say for sure.
It is.
You know what her motivations are.
We can't really know what's going on in her head.
Right. But it's a question that's worth considering.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at the bigger picture.
The political landscape as a whole.
Yeah. And how polarized
Yeah.
the two parties have become.
Right. It's like they're drifting further and further apart.
Exactly. Every day.
So speaking of polarization,
Yes.
let's jump into that Reddit thread.
All right. Let's see what people are saying.
And see what people are saying, because
I'm sure there are some strong opinions.
oh yeah, the reactions are all over the place.
We got everything from outrage to legal arguments to calls for political reforms.
It's a whole spectrum of responses.
Yeah, the whole gamut.
Yeah. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of anger and accusations of betrayal.
Yeah, like a bait and switch tactic.
Exactly. And some people are even suggesting legal action.
Really?
Yeah. There's this one commenter who claims to be a lawyer.
Okay.
And they're talking about the possibility of donors filing a class action lawsuit against Cassel.
Wow.
For deceptive business practices.
The class action lawsuit. That's it's that's an old idea.
Yeah.
But it does raise an interesting question, right?
Yeah.
Like when you donate to a political campaign, is there an implicit understanding that the candidate will stay affiliated with a particular party? I mean, it's never explicitly stated.
Right.
But maybe it's something that we just assume.
Right. Right.
And if that's the case, then could you argue that
switching parties is a form of breaking that agreement?
Yeah, it's almost like you're investing in a product and then they change the product on you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't know. It
would be interesting to see.
It would be interesting to see how that would play out.
Yeah.
In court.
If it ever got that far.
Yeah, but even beyond the legal stuff.
Yeah.
There are lots of people on this thread who are calling for more immediate political solutions.
Right. Like, how can we prevent this from happening again?
Exactly. Yeah.
And there are a lot of different ideas being thrown around. Some people are talking about recall elections. So if a representative switches parties midterm, the voters could have a chance to vote them out.
Okay.
Others are suggesting new legislation that would specifically address party switching.
Okay, so what kind of legislation are they thinking about?
Well, one idea that I saw was that if a representative switches parties, the seat should automatically go to the candidate who got the next highest number of votes.
Oh, interesting.
In the previous election.
So like a runner-up situation.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, it's definitely a novel approach.
It is.
But I imagine there would be some logistical challenges.
Yeah, I mean our electoral system is really built around the idea of individual representation.
Right. Not party quotas.
Yeah, so I don't know how feasible that would be.
Yeah, it would be tricky.
But it's clear that people are looking for ways to hold their elected officials accountable.
Absolutely.
And make sure that their votes really matter.
Yeah, they want to feel like their voices are being heard.
Right.
And that they have some recourse.
Yeah.
If they feel like they've been misled.
Yeah, and then of course you've got those more cynical voices in the thread who are just like, well, this is just politics as usual.
Yeah, the nothing to see here, folks.
Yeah, and there's a certain
resignation.
Yeah, like a sense of well, we shouldn't be surprised by anything anymore.
Yeah, like this is just how the game is played.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad.
It is. It is.
When you think about it.
It's like we've become so jaded that we just accept this kind of behavior as normal.
And then you've got the people who see this as like a wake-up call for the Democrats.
Like, hey, maybe we need to be playing a little dirtier.
Yeah, they're like, if the Republicans are doing this, maybe we need to, fight fire with fire.
Right. Some are even suggesting that the Democrats should start running Trojan horse candidates.
What does that mean?
So basically, individuals who campaign as Republicans.
Oh, wow.
But then switch sides after they win.
That seems...
Yeah, it's pretty risky.
A high-risk, high-reward kind of strategy.
Yeah, and wouldn't that just...
make the problem of distrust even worse?
I mean, it's possible.
Yeah.
It could definitely backfire.
And it would just further polarize the political landscape.
Yeah, it's like, where does it end?
Yeah.
If we're constantly trying to outmaneuver each other,
Right.
it just creates this spiral of distrust.
Yeah.
And it makes it harder and harder to find common ground.
Right. And speaking of, distrust and irony,
Yeah.
there's this point that some Reddit users have brought up
Yeah.
about Cassel's reasoning for switching parties.
Right. Her concern about anti-Semitism within the Democratic Party.
Yeah. And some people are pointing out that the only other Jewish Republican representative in Florida just recently switched his support.
From DeSantis to Trump.
Yeah, from DeSantis to Trump, because DeSantis wouldn't condemn
a neo-Nazi rally.
A neo-Nazi rally in his state.
That was happening in Florida.
Yeah.
It's a bit hypocritical.
Yeah, it does make you wonder, right?
Yeah, it does.
About Cassel's, her true motivations.
Like, is she really that concerned about anti-Semitism?
Yeah.
Or is that just a convenient excuse
Yeah.
to justify her decision?
Right, because now she's aligning herself with a party that has also faced criticism.
Yeah, plenty of them.
About harboring those same kinds of views.
Exactly.
It's complicated.
It is.
And I think it highlights the importance of looking beyond single-issue politics.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we get so focused on one particular issue that we forget to consider the bigger picture.
Right. It's like that saying, you can't see the forest for the trees.
Exactly.
We get so caught up in the details that we lose sight of the overall context.
Right. And in this case, the bigger picture involves the changing dynamics of the two-party system, the role of individual conscience versus party loyalty and the potential for deep disillusionment.
Absolutely.
When voters feel like their trust has been broken.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So it's a lot to unpack.
It is.
And it's easy to get lost in the weeds.
Yeah, the weeds of political maneuvering.
Yeah, exactly.
And partisan bickering.
But before we go any further, I think it's important to step back for a second.
Okay.
And think about what all this means.
Yeah.
For you, the listener.
Right, because at the end of the day, this isn't just some abstract political drama happening on a distant stage.
Yeah.
This has real-world implications for voters, for the political landscape, for the very foundation of trust in our democratic institutions.
So as you're listening to this, I want you to think about your own experiences.
About your own beliefs.
Yeah, what stands out to you from this conversation?
What resonates with your own sense of how politics should work?
Right. And most importantly, how can we as engaged citizens navigate this increasingly complex and often frustrating political landscape?
Right. It's a tough question.
It is.
And there are no easy answers.
Yeah.
But I think this deep dive has highlighted a few key takeaways that might help us kind of find our way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I think it really underscores the importance of informed voting.
Yeah.
We can't just rely on party labels or catchy slogans.
Yeah, we really need to...
We need to do our homework.
Yeah, dig deeper.
Research the candidates, look at their history, their positions on the issues, go beyond the rhetoric, try to understand their values.
Right,
their motivations.
Yeah, what's really driving them.
Exactly. Take the time to really understand who you're voting for and what they represent.
And it's not just about voting.
Right. I mean, it's also about ongoing engagement. That's absolutely. With our elected officials.
Don't just vote and then disappear.
Right.
Stay informed.
Yeah.
Stay engaged.
We have someone accountable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Reach out to their offices, attend town halls, make your voice heard.
Yes, and don't be afraid to, to express your concerns.
Right.
If you feel
like they're not representing you.
Yeah, they're not living up to their promises.
Exactly.
All right, so you know me, I always like to end these deep dives.
I know.
With a thought-provoking question.
Always got to leave them with something to think about.
Something to chew on.
Hit them with a brain teaser.
Yeah.
All right, lay it on me.
So we've been talking a lot about party loyalty and how that seems to be shifting.
Yeah, like it's not as solid as it used to be.
Right. And if politicians can switch allegiances so easily. Yeah.
Does party affiliation even matter anymore?
That's a big question.
It is.
And I think a lot of people are struggling with it.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, political parties, they provide a framework
Right.
for organizing our political ideologies and coordinating legislative action.
It's like a shorthand.
Yeah.
A way to quickly identify where somebody stands.
Right, like a label that tells you, generally what they believe in.
Exactly.
But when that framework starts to become fluid, unpredictable, it can lead to a lot of confusion, disillusionment.
Yeah, and I think for voters, it's like the rules of the game are changing.
Yeah, and we're not sure. We're right in the middle of the game.
Yeah, how to play anymore.
Yeah.
So maybe instead of this blind allegiance to a particular party, we need to start focusing more on
what?
On issues.
Issues. Okay.
Issue-based coalitions.
Finding common ground across party lines.
So like working together to solve problems.
Yeah, to address specific problems, to advance shared goals.
So moving away from that us versus them mentality.
It's not about, one side winning and the other side losing. It's about finding solutions
that work for everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that requires a willingness to listen to each other, to engage in dialogue.
Even when we disagree.
Even when we disagree.
Which can be hard.
It's not easy.
No.
But it's essential if we want to create a political system that actually works for people.
That's well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the wild world of Florida politics.
Sunshine State politics, never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment. We leave you with this final thought.
Okay.
If party affiliation becomes less relevant, what are some new ways that we can organize and engage in the political process?
To make sure our voices are heard, to make sure our needs are met.
To make sure that our system actually represents us.
Right. That it's truly a government. Of the people, by the people, for the people.
It's a good question to think about.
It is.
And, maybe the answer lies not in rigid ideologies, but in open minds.
Open minds, a commitment to dialogue and a shared belief in the power of collective action.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
On this deep dive.
Always a pleasure.
And until next time, keep exploring.
Keep questioning.
Keep questioning and keep the conversation going.
Absolutely.